Hi, this is Chris. Today we're going to go over the usage of the Scandalous library and how it pertains to validation on a form. This is the first lesson in a four-part lesson that will walk us through making AJAX calls, doing validation on a form, working with HTML templates, and creating custom validations for the Scandalous library. Today we're going to start off with a Google search, a very simple Google search. And a lot of it should be very beginner for you. I'm going to start off with an empty page. We have Google HTML, which is on the Scandalous servers. And if at the end of this lesson you can go and check out this page and see the completed source code. For right now we have nothing on the page. We have an empty page. So what we're going to need first is, let's start off with some HTML code. Now I'm going to save you some of my typos, and we're just going to work with some templates that I've already created. I'm going to copy these right into the Google HTML. So right off the bat, we just start off with HTML tag. We've got a head and we've got a body, and ooh, hello, what is this? That's extra. Okay, so we start off with we're going to put in Google search as our title. Let's go ahead and save this file and make sure that we're actually working on the right page. Let's go ahead and refresh. Yep, and we are. We have Google search in the title now. Okay, so we said we're going to create a Google search form. So let's go back and start looking at the actual form. I'm going to start off with a very simple form. Very simple form. In the body section, let's go ahead and put our form in. And what we've got is our form ID tag. We've got an input, a second input, a label, and a submit button. Really simple. Our form ID is Google Book Search because it's going to be a book search against the book API. We're going to generate a feed through a get method into a new window. We only want 5 results, so we have max results set to 5, and that's a hidden input field. And inside a very standard table, we're going to put a label and our input for our search term. Google likes the term Q. You may have noticed that. Our label is just going to say, what is your term? Term. And then we're going to have our submit button. Very standard stuff. Let's go look at this. Saved it and refresh the page. There we go. Alright, so we have our term, label, we have our input box, and we have our submit query. And if I type in vote and I submit in a new window, we get a boat feed. 5 books from Google that pertain to boat. Right? Very simple. Now, if I type in nothing at all, I'm going to get an empty feed. This is not desirable. We probably want some validation on this. Let's go add some validation. The way we're going to do our validation, of course, since this is a Scandalous JavaScript library tutorial, we're going to do it through Scandalous. Scandalous is built on Prototype and Scriptaculous. Prototype and Scriptaculous, if you're not familiar with them, it's really great JavaScript libraries. Prototype making cross-browser scripting very easy, and Scriptaculous adding special effects. We're going to use the very easy cross-browser library, and with a couple special effects by the end of this tutorial you'll see some of that. And our definition library, which is the Scandalous library, is the glue that holds both of these together. So right off the bat, the first thing we're going to need to do is add our 3 libraries, our 3 base libraries, in this proper order. Prototype, Scriptaculous needs prototype, and definition needs both. So we're going to load them in this correct order. And now we're going to need to add some validation to our form. Very easy stuff. Everything in definition works on class names, which makes it very easy to add validation to your form. What we're going to do is we're just going to take the form open tag, we're going to modify it. A very simple modification. You'll notice that on form there is no class. We're going to add a class. Of course, it would have taken me far less time to just type this rather than copy and pasting. You'll notice that the only thing I've done here is we've added class of type validation, which is going to tell the definition library when it loads up here to look for anything that's got that class name, a validation. We're going to apply a definition, the validation definition, to this element. Now, what is a definition? We've been talking about definitions a lot now. Let's fill you in on the blanks here. The definition is a class, a JavaScript class, that when applied to an element will give it extra functionality. In this case, when it's applied to a validation class, is added to a form, it will add on an override for the onSubmit, and it will run through all the elements and verify that they're properly validated. Now, so the form knows that it needs validation at this point, but it doesn't know what validation it's going to need. What we need to do is we need to tell the elements of this form that they need to be validated. The easiest thing to do here is a required validator, which is a built-in validator on the validations library. It's easy enough to do. See, typos. We just say class is equal to required. This is why we copy and paste. Required. Alright, so at this point, I should be able to save this form and come back to our template here. And our term should now be required. If I try to hit the submit button, oh, I get an error message. See, this is why we copy and paste. What we've forgotten to do is we've forgotten to say what the error message is going to be. We've gotten an error message, there's no text. We're going to type title equals. Please enter a search term. Right? Now we have an error message. So we've said this element is required, and the error message is going to be please enter a search term. Now this should work. We've saved our file. We're going to come back to our Google example. Google. And let's go ahead and hit the submit button after the page is done loading. There we go. There's our first error message. Please enter a search term. Now, let's try it with a search term. There we go. We've just added validation. Very simple validation, but validation nonetheless. Now in the future, as we build on this concept, I have a very simple back end that we're going to call out to. We're going to use as a proxy for an AJAX call. That proxy only allows one term. So let's go ahead and handle this now. We don't want two terms. We don't want to be able to say boat name, for instance. Although it works here, it's not going to work on the back end that we're going to use. And it gives us a perfect opportunity to introduce the concept of adding new validations.